I'm joined by CBS4's Jim DeFede, and Jim, everybody was predicting a close race. It was a close one. Charlie Crist was really relying on Miami-Dade and Broward. Did those counties come through for him? No.
They did not come through the way he needed them to come through. You know, what we saw in 2010 was that Charlie Crist, or Alex Sink at the time, won that race. I think we've got some numbers to be able to put up. Sink won those two counties by about 200,000 votes. Charlie Crist this time expanded that a little bit to 275,000 votes. But that wasn't enough. What he really needed was, he needed much closer to the 2012 numbers that Barack Obama got, when Barack Obama won those two counties and came out of Dade and Broward with a 472,000 vote margin.
Well, let's talk about Joe Garcia. One and done for Joe Garcia. What did him in?
Well, you know, look, that was a nasty race all around. It was, you know, both candidates had questions about them. Joe Garcia certainly was crippled by some of the scandals that had affected his own campaign. But here's the most interesting fact to me about that race. In 2012, when Joe Garcia beat David Rivera, there was $580,000 in outside money spent to try to influence the race. This year, $9 million in outside money came into that race. And what's amazing to me about that is this was a race where really nothing was at stake in terms of the U.S. House of Representatives. It wasn't going to change who was in control. This was just spending a lot of money to try to flip one seat.
Let's talk about medical marijuana. Early on, there was strong support for it, and then you saw that change towards Election Day. What happened?
A very large, well-funded advertising campaign, in part by Sheldon Adelson, the Las Vegas billionaire gambler or casino mogul. He basically funded a $5 million campaign to come out very strongly against it. Now, it's of course Florida's way that you need 60% to pass, so they actually got 57, 58%. Now, John Morgan, who put $5 million of his own money to try to pass this measure, has already said that he will be back in 2016 to run it again, and he believes that in a presidential election year, when more Democrats will come out to the polls, it'll stand a much better chance of passing that 60% margin.
Quick last question. Was it a mistake for Barack Obama not to come to Florida to campaign with Charlie Crist?
Well, it wasn't so much whether it was Barack Obama's mistake. It was it Charlie Crist's mistake not to have him? I mean, the president, if you pick up the phone, the president would have been here in a heartbeat. This was about turning out your base, and this was about turning out supporters. The problem at the end of the day, though, may not have been African-American votes, which I do think underperformed for Charlie Crist, Hispanic votes. I think the Hispanic community was depressed, and their voter turnout was depressed because they believed the president reneged on his deal with regard to immigration reform. And Hispanics did not turn out to the polls this year as they had in past.
Well, he said he's going to take executive action on that. We'll see what happens. Jim, thanks a lot for your insight. And now